We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
When I think about those nights in Montreal, all I think about is weed. Memories of city lights and packing bowls.
Good evening, folks. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Canada Quebec Connection with me and Loretta Clark, acknowledging that I am on the Ktunaxa Nation, coming out of Cranbrook, British Columbia. And Loretta, you are on that?
Yes. I'm in Montreal, which is the unceded territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka.
Kaneka. And they are not they're a treaty, so they're not unceded.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Treaty 7. That's
Thank
okay.
you for correcting me. I clearly.
Well, it's really hard to decipher.
I was really trying to get the pronunciation, but yes, maybe you could do a little education.
Well,
so what's the difference to say ceded, unceded territory?
Ceded territory or treaty land is where there's treaties that have been already signed previously by the Canadian government back in the 1800s. So there's
unceded means they
never gave permission to be. So the only part of Canada that's really unceded, all of it, because they really never gave permission for any of it.
Right. No.
To be fair.
Yeah,
but they did.
Yeah.
They made agreements. There was agreements that were made at certain points. Okay. Whether they were followed, they were not. We'll just get there. We'll just leave it at that. But most of the unceded territories in British Columbia along the west coast, and that's the difference. So I sit on Treaty 4, I think it is. Treaty 7 and 6 is Alberta. I believe that I'd have to go and actually look at the treaty map itself. But most nations are on treaty land, which means that there was an agreement made at some point. Like I said, whether the agreements were followed through or weren't is another story altogether.
It's all about raising the awareness.
Well, considering
they did not give over the land.
No,
they didn't say, "Here, take our land." Yes, you can have our land.
No, I'm pretty sure that's not what happened. And then they've found 162 more babies. Out here in British Columbia,
we know that these stories are going to keep on coming, and we just have to go through the layers of
the onion. We have to peel back the skins of that onion and get right to the base of the root of it all, and then try and rebuild from that. And it's going to be a long road, and it's not going to happen. Maybe not even in our lifetime. And I hate to.
Oh, that's discouraging to hear, but well,
let's put it this way: I have tried for the last 5 years to reach out to the band to Mr. Wass's band for Alvin, and I send them emails asking. I tell them I have a child that wants to find their nothing. You get absolutely nothing. And in the last email I sent out, I said, we're not chasing status. Like, that's not what we're here for. We want to learn about Alvin's heritage. We want to learn about the traditional ways, right? Like, that's what Taven wants to learn. Nothing. Just crickets. So I don't know if we're going to Alvin and I, we're going to have to drive out there, whether we're going to have to, I don't know what we're going to have to do, but we might have to drive to Saskatchewan. Because as Alvin's looking at the, they've let me join their Facebook groups. And as you look through the names, it's all Drever. And that's Alvin's mother's maiden name, is Drever, right? There was Chief Drever. Alvin's a direct descendant from one of the chiefs. His grandfather was a Drever, right? And his grandmother was an ice buster. So her dad was, I believe, a Scottish immigrant, and her mother was Cree. So they had ice busters, right? So that's where the whole. But his great grandfather lived on the reserve with his grandma. He wasn't a colonizer that came in and took her off. He was a colonizer that came in and assimilated to be like them.
Wow.
That's what we're finding out, yeah. So, there's like different history for every family, and I don't have any of that. So I'm trying to embrace it for my son's sake, because I'd like for him to learn everything he possibly can.
And he wants to learn.
He wants to,
yeah. So he should, and I'm sure he will. I'm sure you'll find a way. But I mean, I hope in our lifetime we actually see concrete steps towards truth and reconciliation. I mean, I feel like we're right now in the truth part. That's, finally
I'm not saying
being made
we
known.
won't see progress in our lifetime. I'm not saying that. I just don't think, with the way things are going with racism and all the crap that's still going on with people being racist, and what's going on in the United States with voter law, like the voting laws being changed, and democracy basically crumbling in the States, and that's how I see this. I see democracy crumbling. So, and I see racism rising. So as much as Canadians and our Indigenous, or not our, you should never use that word, sorry. Indigenous people see the change that we might see coming forward for our nation, I really see a backpedaling going on in the States. And I hate to say that affects us, because it doesn't. It spills over onto our borders. And even with cannabis, like, you see the difference between the cannabis laws and what goes on with cannabis in the States comparably to us, in the state to state, and the medical and the non-medical, and not having a federal program in the U.S. So it makes it super difficult for each of these entities in each state to even run. And in Canada, at least we've got the federal programs, but again, with the patchwork quilting of each province having different regulations, and each municipality having different
Good point.
regulations. So,
Right. I mean, I know America's in a crisis, but I want to believe the good forces are there, and, hopefully
I'm
they
gonna
will
straight up say the good
prevail.
forces
And,
are gonna be the good forces
and
need to be quit standing behind the word Jesus Christ and God, because
what?
I get so sick and tired of hearing, and may God bless you, out of Joe Biden's mouth, out of any politician's mouth that stands in front of a fucking crowd of people, should never wish that God blesses them, because there's no business. Fucking religion has no business in politics. You expect us to be anti-partisan. You expect us to work across the aisle. Keep your goddamn religion to yourself. I don't care which religion it is. And then we have to bring up the whole legislation over in a cab in Quebec, but it's still a religious fucking symbol. And I'm sorry, I know that it's not Islamophobia. I don't care. I'm for religious freedom, but this religious freedoms that we've got are pushing everybody into a corner. Because if you want to say anything negatory, then it's discrimination, and you're being Islamophobic, and you're this and that and that. But yet they're covering Catholic churches in fucking red paint and knocking over statues. But if that was a mosque, the whole fucking country would be in a goddamn outreach.
Well,
but because
I
it's a
think
Catholic,
there's- I
no,
think
but
there's-
you have to, devil's advocate, you have to look at it from that perspective. We're looking at it from religious freedoms only. Logically, it's religious freedom. So you're burning down fucking Christian churches, but if you're burning down a mosque, the outrage is totally different on both ends of this right now. Because it doesn't matter what the church has done. It doesn't matter. You cannot look at what happened before. You cannot bring the past into it, because it's still religious freedom. But if that was a mosque that was being burnt to the ground or being covered in red fucking paint, everybody would be in a great big fucking outrage. Yet right now, because of what's going on with Indigenous peoples and because of the church's responsibility for it, it's okay to do that. Do you see?
Yeah,
and
but
people are making excuses.
Never did these abusive
It
things
doesn't.
to children.
Yes, they
That's
do.
the difference.
They do different things that are atrocities. They fucking genetically fucking mutate their women's clitoris.
But please don't go down that road. But I get it. But I mean, I'm just saying that didn't happen in Canada. So.
It does happen in Canada, Loretta. It does.
Well,
That's
you're
the
right.
whole
It
thing.
may,
Exactly. So here you are. But here you are. I get.
Unfortunately,
see?
But
we're making excuses.
Think,
we're making excuses.
I understand why there's outrage right now towards the church. Obviously, I don't think it's a good idea to necessarily burn them down or wish anyone would die. I'm not into the violence at all. But I just feel when people do deface a mosque or a synagogue, it is out of Islamophobia or anti-Semitism, hardcore. But our country grew up with the churches, the Catholic Church, the other Christian churches, and they did these horrible things. So I don't want to I like to separate these things out maybe a little bit more.
But you can if you look at the bigger picture, and the box,
it's all really intense.
It's all the same. It's all religious freedom, and that's the box that I want to paint it in. Like I said, I'm not. I don't care. But it's not like I'm trying to be, anti. But I am. I'm anti-religion now. because I see that religion being the base root of all evil.
Well,
Because
I never,
everybody wants
but you know, the
to.
fact of the matter is, most, you know, like America is a religious country. Canada is less religious, way less religious, but it still has religion, obviously, and religion freedom is important. But unfortunately,
When
religions have gotten away with way too much, and they get all these tax
exactly
breaks,
my
and so
fucking
things
point.
so things should change on that part
That's
for
exactly
sure.
my point too. They've gotten away with fucking murder,
Yes,
and
they have.
they've gotten away with raping, pillaging, demeaning women on all levels. I don't care what fucking religion it is. They all treat women
All
like
the
crap.
patriarchal.
They're all
Yeah.
patriarchal. They all treat women. Women should be, seen and not heard, and be pumping out puppies. You know what I'm
Oh
saying? Like,
God.
no, but let's face it. The base of all religion, whether it is Catholic, Protestant, blah 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 blah. I could give you a list of fucking 500 of them because there are that many or more, and they all treat women like crap. Look at how hard it was for a lesbian woman to actually become a priest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, for sure. They, you know, that control of women has
And
been
the
their
tax
agenda.
breaks they get,
Absolutely.
and the money that they collect, and the profits that they make. So is it a church
hope
or a
you know,
corporation?
look when they do all the polls around politics, and you know, part of like the white supremacy shit face stuff that's happening in the U.S. is because the white people, the white evangelicals, are all freaking out because all the young people are not religious. This is a positive sign.
No, they are.
You know,
That's the
like
thing. They are.
they like
They're
to say no,
evangelicals,
but
and,
religion is stupid.
here's the message that they're pushing in the states, that they're the minority now, and
Yeah. Yeah,
they
well,
better
but they're
stand
losing,
up because they're
their
losing
religion
they're losing their
and their
space in the
identity.
and their identity in the states. So they keep them afraid, and that's how this QAnon keeps building, and it is young people, because the QAnon movement is making them afraid that they're going to be taken out by.
There's no question, you know, and it could happen even next month, okay? Because
I know.
what Trump is fuming and whatever. But I want to go back to the good forces, the will of the good. There's a lot of good stuff happening to, you know, fight the suppression of the vote, because yes, that is a pillar of democracy that they're trying to knock down. I'm gonna hope and have faith and send all the good vibes for democracy to keep going forward, and that these frauds will be exposed. Like, every time you hear Donald Trump talk, like, how can you not listen to him and not realize, like, he is such a lying, narcissistic, and what, you know, these people are a cult. Like, they're in like cult mode with him. So it's a mental illness is the way I'm seeing it. So, but it's deeply and widely spread, and yes, it's definitely part of Canada as well. We've got QAnon here in Quebec.
Jesus
So
Christ.
yeah,
Did you
but
guys have riots? Where was the riots? It was London, I guess, after the. Like, I mean, even that, like, after the soccer game, you know, of course you kind of half expect it, right? And the racism that's coming out, and that was a goddamn good soccer game. I watched it because I'm kind of a soccer nerd, and I watched that game. It was a great game. I watched the poor bugger. He hit the goddamn goalpost, and I was talking to Debbie on the phone. I'm like, shit. And she's like, what? Look, sorry, I'm watching the soccer game. But yeah, and the racism that's coming, like, again, and that's my fear.
Sad.
And that's my
So
fear, because
disturbing.
even in Europe, you know, with immigration and stuff, because I got a buddy that lives in the UK too. I've known him. He's just
Oh
a
my
Facebook
God,
friend.
there's so much racism in
But
Europe. Of course.
he's an East Indian fellow, right? And he goes, well, you know, the national, you know, best food in London now, the national dish is curry.
Yeah, for sure.
And it
I
is.
mean,
Curry
there's a
and fish
lot
and
of
chips,
diversity
right?
there, but there's a lot of racism too that's
Oh,
entrenched in their
absolutely.
system, their classist system. But you know, I do like,
Well, it's
in
these
one way,
gangs.
people are right to say, like, the problem is the internet, the fact that people can express all this, like, you know, vitriol and this hate on the internet, and it just spreads. It's true, but on the other hand, it is also what motivates people, like, you know, in London, they were like putting all these messages of love over these racist slurs of a painting of one of their soccer stars, and yeah, and it's making them go deeper, and it's making them admit that they are a racist country. And that's the thing. It's like the leaders of these countries, they just like the leader of Quebec doesn't want to admit that, you know, it's racist here. Like, that is just unbelievable. That, you know, what a bubble this guy lives in, that he could actually say that. I mean, it's just incredible. You know, meanwhile, an Indigenous woman videotapes, I mean, uses her cell phone as she's dying to, like, you know, show the racism. You know, that happened a few months ago. There's just so many instances of it that happened in this last year. I mean, I think COVID's made everybody a little bit crazier, but it's also made all this stuff clearer.
Well, I think too, with the stress of all this residential school too, is really feeding the division. I watch native TikTok quite a bit, and I'm on TikTok now more than I ever was before. I actually have people that follow me, believe it or not. But and watching Indigenous, you know, TikTok and the hate, and now that the Americans are starting to wake up to what's gone on in the U.S. for the Indigenous people as well.
I noticed they don't call it residential school there; they call them boarding schools.
Boarding schools, yeah.
I don't know.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. It was the same thing.
Yes,
absolutely.
It was. Yeah. Yes, it was. So they are looking at Canada, and I read somewhere that one of their ministers wanted them to also. They said this Truth and Reconciliation that began in 2008 was something that they wanted to emulate, and so in that way, Canada can be a bit of a leader, I'd say. I think we are. You know, we're definitely ahead, because I actually saw on CNN that they were talking about Canada, and they have started the process of, you know, looking at their own unmarked graves.
Well,
or marked
there
graves.
was a priest on yesterday, I believe it was, and some of the TRC, I don't know if you've read the TRC, but some of the TRC's points are actually specifically suggested to the church. It's not all the government in the TRC. There are portions like 52 through 57, I think, are all pointed at the church. So this priest was talking about the fact that in order to get the completion of the TRC, the Pope is going to have to, and they're trying, and some of the Catholics are trying to push for this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, that being said, like I said, this is it's going to be a long process. Like, we're only at the third school, you know, and like
right.
until we find out too, like I said, even out here with St. Eugene's, with Sophie Pierre, stating that those graves were actually marked at one time, and you know, the things had deteriorated and that kind of thing, right? So let's let them do their work. I guess that's the best thing I can say, because even in Cowichan, they just got their the signatures to sign over their own child welfare services. Let them. I think it's great, and they'll be allowed to take care of their own people as what they want to do, and I think that's great. But I hope it's not going to segregate us. And that's my biggest fear, too, is like, I don't want assimilation. I expect that everybody wants to be, but I just hate the fact that it seems like we're segregating ourselves.
No, I think that move is so important, because
well, we don't have any business.
The taking away of children, you know, also led to the foster care system. All that has to change.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
all about self-governance.
Yeah,
governance, and that is they're their kids. So no, I think it's important that they be in charge of their own foster care system, or whatever system they want.
Like I said, it bothers me that Taven gets taken out of class to learn about his heritage, when I think the whole class should be learning it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's segregation. Like, no matter how he's being, like, him and the other Indigenous kids are taken out of the classroom. They get to go and spend an hour learning about heritage and history and whatever for, I believe, the Ktunaxa here, because most of the kids here are from the nation here. And then they go back. And I just think that's wrong. I think the whole class should have that.
Well, I think it would be great if the whole... I'm sure other kids would probably rather be learning about Indigenous culture than what they're learning in class.
Well, again, like I said, there are certain ceremonies and stuff that they'll never share. And that's their right. Like there are certain, you know,
Mm-hmm.
sacred ceremonies that unless you belong to that clan or that tribe, that band, you'll never know that
Right.
stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
on the cannabis front, what's going on out west?
Crickets.
Well,
I
we
don't
got
know.
some gangster news. We had
Yeah.
a murder. We had a murder at. Oh, you know, it's so disturbing because for me, part of the reason why I was so passionate about medical and that medical could diminish the gangsterism of pot, and you know, and I'm always going to go back to blaming the government for creating the war on drugs and basically creating a gangster factory where they just made more and more gangsters. But at Oka, which is properly called, you know, Canna something, I'm forgotten right now, but there was a murder, and it was just like a total gangster murder of, you know, somebody getting out of a car and shooting a guy like point blank, like, you know, 3 shots, like just and so, and this is how this, you know, I don't know I don't have all the details because I'm just so disturbed by it too. Because one of the things that came out of this was this is where, you know, a lot of people have really been drawn to this place because it's like a little, you know, cannabis oasis. There's all these wonderful dispensaries, and now apparently there's like, you know, you can get an ounce for $45 and $50. Like the price is really going down. So of course, a lot of people from Montreal. It's about an hour away from Montreal, and a lot of people are going, and so. Yeah, you know, some of these places might have terraces. I know one of them did have a lounge, but of course during COVID it was all shut down. But anyways, a friend of mine was doing a comedy show in the park, so I decided to take my petition, and I was getting some people to read it, and they were like, "Yeah, this is really good because we hear that they don't want to have lounges at Oka because, you know, somebody got shot, like as if like lounging, you know, like hanging around and smoking a joint after you know, is like somehow, you know, I was so disturbed by it. I thought, oh,
Well, here's another thing that I found. I see it on the news today too. That's really disturbing. Is how a Canadian soldier is being accused of drugging comrades with marijuana-laced cupcakes, and the military has actually like lost the evidence. But
because they ate it. What?
But I mean, for her to be charged with drugging her comrades with marijuana-laced cupcakes, she faces 18 charges, including administering a noxious substance to 8 soldiers without their consent. At the time, the soldiers were taking
maybe that gets back for all the rapes and all the, you know, whatever. Like,
what she was trying to knock them out, so she didn't have to. So she didn't have to worry about getting raped.
No, I know.
But I mean, like,
it's never a good idea. Like, to me, it's so wrong to.
But
like,
the chain of command's loss of the cupcake wraps was so shocking. Neglect is a consentive abusive process. But I can't even believe that she's being charged with anything for feeding some cupcakes with a bit of marijuana that I'm sure didn't get them that fucking high, because she would have had to use a lot of fucking marijuana to get them that loaded, right? Like, are they? Oh, come on.
Well, I think she should be. I don't think it's right.
It's taken them 17.
I really don't.
It's taken them 17 months.
What is she facing? What is she facing?
Okay, so it's taken them 17 months for the military police to realize they hadn't secured all the wrappers, because all they had was the wrappers. They didn't even have the cupcakes.
Well, she's going to get off then.
17 months required to discover. It's disturbing to say the least. Caswell's unusual case made headlines around the world. The Department of National Defense has said it believed to be the first case of a soldier charged with feeding marijuana to colleagues without their consent. Caldwell's mother told CBC News strangers had bombarded her with hate messages online and found her vehicle keyed in her driveway. Over some pot cupcakes, people. Pot cupcakes.
Why did she do it, though? Just curious. Like, did she say, like, did she think it was just that they'd all be down for it? Did she, like, what was her, I'm just curious, what was her motivation?
I don't think there was any motivation.
Okay.
The soldiers gathered 5 wrappers.
She just thought, instead of drinking, here's some pot kind of thing? Is that? I don't know. I mean,
it doesn't
she doesn't
say
deserve to like
any reason why she did it. It just said that she probably just had them and never even said anything. But it says that she faces maximum sentence of 2 years imprisonment.
Oh, wow, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
For feeding 8 pot muffins or pot cupcakes to 8
men.
Big
they were men. They weren't teenagers. They weren't kids. They were men. Yeah. That's
and
that's a bit.
What they ratted her out after they piss tested for THC. And then it was like, oh, it must have been in the muffins. You better get the wrappers. And then they were scraping the wrapper to see if there's any THC in the crumbs. Give me a fucking break. That is the most pathetic shit I've ever read in my life. So you're scraping the crumbs, and how are you going to get any THC levels off the actual amount of THC in the cupcake if you only have crumbs to sample? This is why is this even in court?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, who's the prosecutor?
Where did this happen? Was this Canada?
Yeah.
So, this is that's
CFB Gagetown, wherever CFB Gagetown is. We'll find out where that is. CFB Gagetown.
I've never heard of it.
Is located in, of course, New Brunswick. It's the base in New Brunswick. And, New Brunswick is, its own little entity all on its own, right? Yeah. Good grief. Okay, well, there you go. So that's some exciting. So you've had a murder out there. Yeah, there's been all
it's just so disturbing, that it's associated with cannabis as far as I'm concerned. And that people are they were saying to me, we need lounges, but now they're saying that they shouldn't have any lounges there because people,
shouldn't have any bars.
And I'm like, what?
How many people have been stabbed or shot at a bar?
I know.
So don't have lounges because people are going to get shot at them?
that association with gangsters and criminality. It's like, why is it so hard to eradicate that? Why? And, I think part of the reason it is, but it's also the government does not admit to the fucking bullshit war on drugs that created this criminal empire and created, a prison profit system and it just created so many problems. They won't admit to it, and they still feel justified. And the way they did the rollout for cannabis, because, of course, we had to take it out of the hands of the criminals. And then this is just something that just feeds into that.
Don't forget about the children!
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Are you fucking kidding me? And like I said,
it's so angry.
It's just, but I want to chew my tongue off because that was the message we were
I think you are chewing your tongue off.
Right? Fuck. That was a message. Regulate it so it takes it out of the hands of the black market. Legalize and regulate it so it takes it out of the hands of the gangsters. Take it away. Save the children. Because that's the only way you're going to get them to listen. Now that they've actually listened, you're just like, why the fuck did we sell them that? Right? Because show them the money. That was another one of our mottos. Show them the money. And they'll legalize it. And then they did, and then they fucked us all in the ass. Straight up. So that's what we get for trying to.
No, don't say that. No. Look, we're in a process. We're gonna keep, but the truth of the matter is, we can't go forward really until they admit they're just admitting to some wrongs from 100 years ago. So maybe we do have to wait 100 years. I don't know, but we shouldn't have to because they're making billions of dollars. The average person, I know they may not care about us and about, but most Canadians understand that, if the government really wants people to respect them, and no wonder so many people are anti-science too and don't trust, it's because of the war on drugs.
Yeah.
It's hugely because of that. If you want to have a better society, you have to speak the truth about that too.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the government did a horrible, inhumane, racist, and classist, we never talk about classist, but it was classist too, policy. And that way they could be racist, because when you put poor white people in prison too for it, you know, then others won't say it's racist, because you got some poor white people in there too who are.
Well, that's another thing we should talk about when we come back after our break, because we're going to have to go to our break here in a minute. But about poverty, because it's another thing that, you know, that's really come up with watching like native TikTok. Is like they're looking, is this an indigenous thing or is this a poor thing? And 90% of it's poor things. So you see that, you know, we're all on the kind of same level when it comes to poverty. And we've all been living some of it, you know, like in such poverty in Canada. Everybody thinks that Canada's such a rich country. But we have so many levels of society where people are living in dire fucking straits. They're living in poverty. They think, oh, well, they're not working because they get $2,000 a month. We'll talk about what $2,000 actually does a month when we come back, because we have to thank our lovely sponsors. So we'll be right back after we take a quick break.
Okie doke.
Okie doke.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. The values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
The People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network provides its listeners with news, information, and a place to be heard. This is done with a twice-weekly broadcast of the Reefer Reporters, and by providing cannabis advocates a place to be heard through Cannabis and Coffee to Marijuana and the award-winning Pace Radio Show. Catch it all here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains, and when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed, and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
What is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network? It's a network of people advocating cannabis education.
CTCP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Who has huge buds? You do, if you shop at BMA Hydroponics. Attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Okay, we are back after our quick little break. I want to thank our sponsors so much for keeping us on the air. So yeah, we were talking before about poverty. We actually got hyped up over the break too because I can't stop myself. But the fact that people that live in poverty, and again we were talking about Ellis Ross. Okay, so Ellis Ross is running for the BC Liberal leadership. And I'm not saying that he's not a good man or a bad man or anything. I don't know much about him personally. But he's sitting here wanting to talk about restarting British Columbia. But people can't find anybody to work. Tourism, BC Oil and Gas, whatever. There's just people don't want to work. Because the federal government's giving people money to live on. So people just don't want to work. Here's the thing, Ellis. Little news flash for you, Mr. Ross, if you're listening. $2,000 barely pays people's rent. In fact, and if you're living in the Lower Mainland and living in an apartment, even as a one-person, you're paying $1,600 to $1,800 for a one-bedroom little tiny apartment in downtown Vancouver or anywhere in the Lower Mainland. Even in Cranbrook, British Columbia, a one-bedroom apartment starts at $1,120 fucking dollars a month. Okay, so you're saying that $2,000 is making it so people aren't smart enough, that we're all a bunch of drug addicts and we're all spending our money on drugs. Or we're, living off this $2,000 a month, and actually it's not even $2,000 anymore, it's $1,900 or $1,800 because they've cut it back. And that's what we're all getting rich on that cash. Do you realize a universal basic income would actually allow people to have housing? Which is the main problem we've got, where people cannot find jobs because they're homeless, because there's no housing, and what housing is available is it's not affordable. And even when the minimum wage is $15 an hour now, big fucking deal. That's only $3,500 a month before taxes. After taxes, only $3,000. And if you're still paying half of that for rent, you're still not getting ahead. You're not paying your utilities. But even with Alvin's wages, our bills, including, that's our rent, our lights, our gas, nothing fancy, like our Wi-Fi, our TV, and our cell phones, and our 2 car payments, because we've got 2 car payments, $4,250 a month. That's before we eat.
Yeah, that's
so you're
huge.
telling me that I'm not working because I get $2,000 lousy dollars from the government, and could you imagine? So we had to live on that $4,000, whatever it was, over COVID, and our bills are $4,250 a month before we eat.
Yeah, no, listen.
So we're not working because
he
we're
does
getting
not
money?
sound like a liberal. He sounds like a conservative.
He is. The BC Liberals are not liberals in any way, stretch, or form.
It's really too bad. And yes, here's the news flash. People who worked in shitty jobs, $8 an hour, $10 an hour, many of them died of COVID. And others, got abused by the, maskless, a-hole tyrants. And, so of course those jobs right now are hard to fill.
Tourism. They're
but you know
screaming
what?
for
Maybe
tourism.
they're going to have to pay more money. So, yeah, people aren't rushing back. I mean, to get those jobs, to get abused, and to make almost nothing. So,
here's the thing. I think that basically, that's why a socialist. I don't care if you want to call it socialism or whatever, but I really honestly believe that everybody in Canada, whether you work or not, even if you make $70,000 a year, you should still be entitled to a $2,000 a month check. If you're making $250,000, you're a doctor. Yeah, you don't need it, right? I don't think any of those people would feel that they're needing. But even people that are making $75,000 to $100,000 a year now are middle class. Those are not rich people. Where when I was growing up in the 80s, if somebody made $100,000 a year, they were like, oh, they're affluent. They got all kinds of money. Now, a house out here in Cranbrook, British Columbia, for an old house, not old, but an old house across the street, my aunt's house, it was my grandparents' house, the price tag on that bitch is $397,000 because it's up for sale right now. And I live in Cranbrook, British Columbia, population 20,000 people. And the house across the street is worth almost $500,000. When in the actual fuck did that happen? If you go to the grocery store now, a bag of groceries that used to cost you $30 is now $100.
Oh,
Gas,
usually.
fuel is $1.50 a liter.
Yeah, no, I know. No, it's.
And they want to talk about restarting our economy and then cutting people off the money that they do have coming in to cover their basic needs, which is housing. People need stability. The basic needs of any person as a human being is a roof over their head.
Sure.
That's a basic human right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's unfortunate, but it's like, yeah, we're maybe on the precipice of a class.
Same with
I don't want to
drugs.
say class
They
war,
pretty much
but
have squashed
class
out
reform.
Well, the basic thing with legalization was squashing out the black market. Well, I ain't selling weed anymore, so it stopped me. It stopped me in my tracks. Well, not in my tracks, not right away, but in the last 2 years.
Well, I didn't see it like that. I wanted to squash out the gangsterism because
right. So what if they legalize?
I didn't see people like us selling to survive in the black market as the issue, as the problem.
No.
I wanted to go towards legalization so I could have a decent job in legalization. Well, that hasn't turned out very well, but I'm still holding out some hope for the future.
Right.
And still pushing for lounges, but definitely come
but again,
up against
as we look at this fentanyl crisis and this opioid crisis that we've got going on, and cocaine that's laced with fentanyl and killing my friends, and as the list goes on and on and on, any drugs, if they just fucking decriminalize them and fucking make them put them in a store too, and so that they're tested and they're clean and they're accessible, and put a limit. You can only buy 28 grams a day of marijuana from a store, so you can only buy 3.5 grams of cocaine out of a store. At least it's clean.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Heroin, whatever.
Create some jobs for people. Give them hope.
Right? Exactly. It would stop the fucking addiction. I wouldn't say it's not going to stop the addiction, but it's going to stop the death.
Yeah, and people can actually live, if they can be functional and live.
There's lots of
in
functioning alcoholics.
Model, if you give them opportunity, hope, community engagement, all of that. It's really a no-brainer.
Along with the stores that can be
nobody's
prevention,
listening.
right? Like along with a store that provides safe access to whatever drug that you want. Then there could be prevention. You could have like a recovery detox, intake office right at the store. Like we've got with the clinic at at BMA Hydroponics. You want a medical marijuana license? There's an office right there. We can just hook you right up, right? So it would actually give people the access to maybe be able to hook up with addiction counseling and help people get off. The drugs rather than enable them to go out and die on the streets with illegal drugs that are killing them.
Harm reduction was always, when you allowed people to have a safe space and a clean space and clean needles and all of that, you actually have an opportunity to also help them with their health and help them take care of themselves and go towards harm reduction. And yes, of course, we know that
teach them
it's way more effective.
Give them some dignity, right? Because like I said, nobody sets out to be a drug addict. They just don't.
No, of course not.
People do not set out to be drug addicts in their lives. They don't get up one day and say, I'm just going to go out and start a whole whack of cocaine and I'm never going to get out of that bag. So, you know what I mean? It's just, it's so unfortunate that...
Trauma.
Right? That there's so much stigma that goes along with it, too. Like, not that I'm saying, like, if cocaine was all of a sudden legal and I could go into a store and get it, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to. I know I had a problem with it before. I've cleaned I've stayed away from cocaine. I'm not going to go back to it just because it's in a store and it's legal. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not going to start sticking needles in my arm and using heroin if it was legal. Right?
No, of course not.
I don't like mushrooms. I don't like the way they make me feel. I don't care if psilocybin becomes legal either. I will never take them again.
No, of course not.
Right?
No, of course not.
LSD, the same thing. Like there are certain things, but if you're addicted to cocaine or to heroin or whatever, and it's killing you, the only way of cleaning that mess up is by not even decriminalize it. It's safe supply. It's opening stores, legalizing it within the same manner, but there would be no manufacturing, right? The government would then have to source out clean supply. there would be no manufacturing. People couldn't all of a sudden set up coke labs and stuff in Canada like they do with marijuana, right? There's not going to be licensed production sites for cocaine production. I don't know how that would work, because they can grow cannabis here and within our they'd have to source it from hopefully somewhere other than China, but
oh God, yeah, for sure.
I'm sure they can make an agreement with the Afghani government to bring in clean heroin, like. You know what I mean? Like, there is clean drugs in Colombia. Yeah. I'm sure of it. Like, I'm sure that they're still producing fentanyl-free cocaine from the right people.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Take out the cartel, per se. Make an agreement with the government so that the cartel doesn't lose their money, because they're still supplying they still get to have the same supply, the same demand is there. The only difference is the government's not wasting money chasing after them. They're supplying the government to be able to distribute to stores. I don't know. It sounds like it could be done. I'm telling you, we could negotiate this deal, Loretta.
Everything should go towards de-gangsterizing.
Well, that's everything. The thing. If you go to the cartel, and give them a legitimate job, right? Let's face it, these cartels are already owning businesses and trying to become legitimate. It's the same as the guys that were growing cannabis and and pushing the weed. They were all illegal growers and all, you know what I mean? All part of the gangster realm. They've had to get out of that realm themselves to be able to get into the legal market.
And we know lots of them did. And,
right?
So if they become diminished gangsters, that's awesome.
Right.
But it still doesn't mean that they shouldn't tell the truth about it all. And that's the only way we're going to, get to a better society where, young people don't feel like, what's the point of being engaged with politics? Because they're all big liars. They're big hypocrites. They're full of bullshit. They, hurt people. If you're not middle class, they only care if you're middle class. If you're lower income, they don't care about you. These are the messages that have been, given to people for decades.
Oh, from the beginning of time.
Yes.
From the beginning of time.
Yes.
Because,
from the beginning of Canada.
Enslaved, for sure. Since the beginning of time. We've enslaved each other as human beings since the beginning of time. And I don't understand where the first human being figured that he was better than the next human being, where he figured that he had power over that other human to make them feel so small, that they would have to be enslaving each other.
Human history, especially ancient human history, it's nothing but murder, and
I know
starvation.
it is exactly.
That's all it was.
And that's not. Here's another thing I saw last night. We'll go back to history. They found a fucking 34,000-year-old skeleton in Wales, and they thought it was an elephant, but it was actually the skeleton of a woolly mammoth. So this woman's skeleton was actually 34,000 years old, and it was found in Britain, in Wales. So they're unearthing all these things in Britain and in the UK and in Wales and Ireland and Scotland, that they're finding that our history is much older than we even anticipated, because they didn't actually think there was actually humans alive 34,000 years ago.
Well, I think we came around 300,000 years ago.
No, this is like they did the carbon. They did everything. The radiology carbon. They call her the Red Lady. Google it. She's 34,000 years old. And they buried her with a bunch of trinkets, and then they found a woolly mammoth skull right beside her.
Well, there's no question that history's being rewritten. Even if you watch my favorite show, The Curse of Oak Island.
I do.
No, that history is being rewritten.
Right?
Okay?
It's ridiculous stuff that. But like I said,
for sure it is.
This was on the Smithsonian channel, right? And they watch it's Mystic Britain, and then they've got it's called Smithsonian Secrets. But they have the bones in the archives in the Smithsonian in the UK in the museums. So they pulled her bones out, and they've carbon and find out exactly how old she is, and now they're trying to find from DNA what tribe she was from, because they're finding that there's like different indigenous peoples that were walking Stone Age cave area, like Stone Age. So she's actually she's a Stone Age person. She probably died with Ice Age, kind of like when the mammoth died. So with the Ice Age, so she was probably alive prior to the Ice Age.
Well, yeah, no, I think we, we're always on a path of, discovering
right?
the truth of our past,
Our truth,
and
and
we're
everybody's
always,
truth.
as humans, we're always on that quest, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. I think it shows we actually are evolving, even though I know we're living in very chaotic and scary times. Believe in those good forces, baby. And even though some of us thought, just if the world could just all become, stoners,
right,
we'd be so much better off.
Well, I fear that with the fires burning, we've got
can't cure everything.
Right, we've got so many fires burning around,
but it does actually. I think it does actually help with that. But I mean, I don't know. It may take.
Well, there goes the outdoor crop again this year out in Kelowna and Vernon with these fires. Penticton, the Okanagan Valley right now, like that's where a lot of the outdoor is growing, is out through that area because it's warm. It's like desert out in Osoyoos and Penticton and Summerland and all that, Kelowna area, and it's burning. We lost lots of
cannabis.
I saw that. Yeah, like I said, a lot of the cannabis crops are growing out there. Some of the legal outdoor cannabis crops are out in that Kamloops, Kelowna area, right? Of course, I don't know exact locations because you're not allowed to know exactly where they are. But there are a lot of outdoor greenhouse licensed production sites out in that area. So I hope that they're all staying safe. Because
what's the latest update on all the fires in BC right now, bud?
I think we've got over 200 burning.
Wow, that's crazy.
If you look at the map, it's just one great big fireball. Like seriously, from the Alberta border, we've got 8 around us burning right now, which it's super smoky here. Like we've got an air advisory again. That's why I feel like you can hear I'm kind of stuffed up. Like I feel like my nose is all
a little bit
congested.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm congested, and it's from the smoke. And it's like if you look outside right now, it's like red sky because the sun's it's red haze. It's bad. It's smoky. Like I said, we don't have anything close enough, and I'm not worried about Cranbrook because we're a city, right? We've got a fire barrier. We'd be taking in evacuees, if we had evacuations in the smaller areas around us. But I'm not worried about us having to be evacuated and leave Cranbrook. I'm not worried about that.
Do you have more than one road out though? Like
no, we've got we've got one road. Well, yeah, we do, but like you can go the back road, straight up second out to the highway, and then there's basically one highway in and one highway out. Like we got the highway Crow's Nest Pass, number 3 highway goes straight through the strip. I mean, there are other like roads. It's not, there are other ways of getting in and out of town. There's 3 or 4 ways. Yeah, there is. So I was going to say no.
I'm sure you have a great fire department there. I mean,
we and like I said, we've got a fire barrier that back when the fires were bad in 2017, the city spent a lot of money getting a fire barrier cut around the city.
What exactly is a fire barrier? What does that mean?
What they do is they take and they plow like from the gravel roads and stuff that go around the town, like Gold Creek, and then we have Joseph Creek, and we've got Hidden Valley Road and a few like rural roads and stuff because we're basically surrounded by mountains, right? So what they did is they took and they plowed or cut down trees that were like from the roadway about 500 meters in. So that means that from the gravel road, 500 meters in, they've taken all the trees and everything out and made bald, like just made a barrier, right?
Right.
So that the trees don't come straight up to the gravel road.
Right. I see. Right? I understand.
Yeah.
Because when you've seen some of those horrible videos of people escaping fires, you could see that the roads got
the trees are right up against
burning
the roads, right.
and falling on the road, and you're just wondering how their tires aren't going to be burned and whatever. Yeah, right. No, I understand. Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I believe that it was. I think it was in 2017. The province kicked in. I think it was $300 million or some ridiculous amount of money. And they cut a fire barrier around Cranbrook because they really have to, because it's the biggest. We're called the Key City of the Rockies because we're the biggest center between Lethbridge and Kelowna, right?
Okay.
When you're on that stretch. So as far as cities go, we're the only one. Like Fernie's, in between Lethbridge and here, but Fernie's still a small smaller, touristy kind of little town. It's a nice little town. It's beautiful, but it's not big. Yeah, they got the ski hill and such there. It's a beautiful little town, but it's not like I said. It's growing too. Like everything's growing, right? Everything's growing a lot, but not the same. It's the same as when I was growing up here, but not the same. Like I said, everything's growing. Everything's evolving. Like I mean, like I said, we're all getting older, and as we get older, everything changes. So I'm hoping that we can see some good change moving forward. I'm pretty pessimistic because, like I said, I see democracy crumbling before us with Donald Trump and his fucking blithering lies that just keep spewing out of his fucking sphincter face. Fuck. I just don't even know what to say because I can't stand it.
He sounds so dumb. I don't understand
how people
you know what he said? He was just at some convention, and what was incredible is they had like the 3%ers and the Proud Boys there, and I was very glad. I thought, yes, way to go, Canada, because we banned these Nazis, thank goodness.
Yeah, well, just because we banned them doesn't mean they're not here. Trust me.
No, but they're not allowed. They wouldn't be allowed to go to a conservative convention like they
they would. They just wouldn't be able to fly their colors. Jason Kenney and fucking Darren O'Toole would let them in the back door.
But you know that they're all like dressing up in their military garb, like because they want. The sad thing is
they're going to have another insurrection.
There's many of them that actually do want to start a war and want to kill people, like me. Who's a big leftist and queer and whatever, and challenges them. Like they want to like kill the leftists because they call us that we're communists, gay communists. And so. It's very scary on that front, but I do think the majority of Americans are much smarter, and if the younger people could only have faith in getting engaged in the political system to really vote and to change and to wipe out conservatism there, and same thing here. I mean, as far as politics has gone, like for many years, like they've really counted, especially the right. They count on young people not voting, and they count on the disenfranchised. That's why the war on drugs was great for them, because they know that so many people won't vote.
Yeah, and the division. They like to see us fighting amongst each other. They like to see dissidents. They like to see. They like to see they like to see the fact that people are standing up for Indigenous rights, because that's going to be the division that they're going to start pushing on, right? Oh, look, they want this. They're asking this quietly. They're not going to do this in public. Trust me, they do it now. They make people that are poor, they make it so that they don't make you feel like you have a voice because you're poor. Even if you go, like, per se, just throwing this out there, I'll guarantee you that my conservative MP would not be looking towards somebody that didn't have money to work on their campaign. He looks for people that have affluence and cash. So if a bunch of people that had, say, trauma problems, mental health issues, addiction problems, probably even somebody with a disability went in to offer their time and help on his campaign, he would probably find a reason for you not to have to do anything. The NDP candidate, on the other hand, or the Liberal candidate, would probably take your help willingly and happily and not even bother looking past the point that you were there to help.
Right.
Because it's about optics. And politics is about optics and power, and it doesn't matter who it is. They're all playing a game of chess.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's one great big game.
But it is our job as the citizens of this country to make them do way better.
Yes.
And to be better. Let's get rid of that damn Senate.
I agree with that.
A low-income only Congress. How's that?
I don't think we even need that. I think they should wipe off the Senate. All these fucking long-term committees. All the fucking time they spend fucking in committees, kissing each other's asses across the aisle. Do your fucking job. Come back to your constituents. Have town hall meetings. Meet with the people that you represent and find out what they want. And start listening to the people that maybe didn't vote for you too. Because you know what, you go in there and you only listen to the people that voted for you. You're missing out on the huge big picture of what the constituent may be needing. You need to listen to the people that are poor. You need to listen to the people that are disabled. You need to listen to the people that are on the streets, that are homeless, that are waiting for housing, because those are the people that are voting for the Liberals. Those are the people that are voting for the NDP because they see some
voting?
hope.
Are they voting though? Like, I mean, when
the
people
disabled,
are
the seniors, you bet they are. Yeah, no.
If you keep them disengaged, they won't vote.
Right?
But if you engage them, they will.
You have to engage them, and that's the thing. And that's what the internet does do. I do see that, and we do go. You have to go to street level. When you're out campaigning, you go down to the homeless shelter. You go down to the food banks. You go and you hand out fucking money or not money, but gift cards and food to people on the street, and don't take any pictures and talk about it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just say
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
You know, and that's what I think that politicians want to be. You want to be grassroots, then prove it. You want to take Canada back to where it belongs. Prove it. Actually start doing so. I had quite the conversation with my Save-On lady today that did my grocery shopping, and we were talking about the fact that as long as this area keeps voting for a Conservative, this area will still have no voice. And people in Cranbrook continually keep voting for the people that aren't in power in Ottawa. And even when they did, so when Harper was in, they had an NDP MP. They voted for Wayne Stetsky. Because, so there was NDP here when Harper was in, right? Now that Harper's gone and Trudeau's in, we've got a Conservative MP that isn't doing anything either. And the NDP couldn't do anything either because he was fighting and dealing with the Conservatives or the Liberals. You need to have somebody that's actually with the party that's in power to actually have your voice heard. So you have to rely on your riding associations, which thankfully the Kootenay Riding Association has Robin, who has been allowed voice for this area. And she's from Nelson. So Nelson's gotten new ferries and new arenas, all thanks to the Kootenay Riding Association asking for federal money to be brought into that area. Because your MP didn't do that for you, people. Your Kootenay Liberal Riding Association did that.
So when do you think the election's going to be called?
Can't speculate on that.
He did shave his face. I think it's
and got his hair cut. That's got nothing to do with it. Let's put it this way: it's going to be 6 weeks before they can probably get Mary sworn in, right? Because Mary's got to be sworn in as Governor General. She can't be Governor General interim. She has to be sworn in before she can.
Wasn't she sworn in? Wasn't that? No,
there's no ceremony. No, it was just the announcement. She's
been
declared, right?
Okay,
so
that makes
it takes
sense.
6 weeks to 8 weeks to set up the ceremony and all the other fandangle, paper, blah, blah, bureaucratic crap that has to be done. So we're looking at minimally probably 6 to 8 weeks before she's sworn in, and then probably another 2 weeks before he's going to drop the writ. So we're looking at mid-September. Yeah.
That's probably a good time.
Yeah. It is a good time. It'll get us through September when the CERB checks and stuff will be ending for everybody. It'll be guaranteed as to be what COVID is going to look like in the fall. So it'll kind of basically, I think, also depend on what's going on with COVID, to be fair.
Right.
If COVID starts ramping back up the second week of September after the kids and stuff are back in school and our numbers start jumping, I don't foresee an election being called. If people get their vaccinations and schools open and everything's lucid and everything's going fine, the economy's kicking back in, I think they'll drop the writ.
Well, basically, I think Canada's doing very well on the vaccination rollout, and because some variants, the Delta variant, they'll continue to happen, and we'll have to get boosters or whatever because these variants will continue to happen because people refuse to get vaccinated. But I do think overall the country's doing pretty good on the vaccination front.
They're sure pushing that nurse that died in the States all over the place, all over TikTok, all over Instagram. She was an anti-vaxxer and contracted COVID and died. And she was all over TikTok and she was all over Instagram about being an anti-vaxxer and about how COVID was a hoax. And she was a nurse. And so she was one of the nurses that were one of those anti-vaxxer nurses that they have them apparently. I didn't know this until today. And she had an Instagram and
Well,
a
only
TikTok
in America,
campaign.
like COVID's way up, only in places where people, like the people who are dying, it's 99% unvaccinated, and many of them have regrets. and, you know, about not, and saying that they thought it was, you know, over, it was a hoax, or,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it was over, whatever they say, why
It's
they
not.
didn't get vaccinated. But it is just now the people, like, yes, there are some breakthrough infections of people who are vaccinated, but they're not dying. There may be a rare
There was
one
one,
or
I
whatever,
think,
but
yeah.
basically the ones that are dying, 98% or something, they're all unvaccinated. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what more evidence do you need?
I know, right?
Right? Like, so either we have to wait till all these people die or get vaccinated.
Oh, God.
But I think, you know, I think our country, but the problem is that the whole world we're not safe until, you know, people everywhere are vaccinated. And that's probably going to take a couple of years. So we'll probably, you know, need booster shots. And that's
I'm
okay.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my dear, we've run out of time again.
Well, as always, it was a fantastic rant.
Always.
A fantastic political rant. I know it's just you and I listening to each other, and we love each other.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Somebody will
We
listen
can disagree,
someday.
and we can rant and rage.
Well, like I said, it's always good to be the devil's advocate too, and get both sides and both perspectives. Even if I mean,
we have different
and
perspectives.
and it's okay to have different perspectives, and
Yes,
still,
of course.
you know.
Of
But
course,
again,
we
like
can
I
rant
said,
and rage.
I'm totally like all on board for whatever needs to be done, and I'm sorry that they found 162 more bodies.
Of course, we
unmarked
know
graves.
there's
Like,
going to be more coming too.
you know, that's just
Yeah, there's going to be more revelations.
My
and
heart
records.
breaks for it, and like I said, it's, you know, the anniversary of my one of my friend's deaths today. She died 2 years ago today. She was a really good friend of mine, and it's kind of been a
Aw.
melancholy day. And yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuffed up, but yeah. Okay, well, we'll say good night to everybody who's listening. Even if nobody's listening, you missed a really awesome show.
We love you, you and I.
Yeah. So everybody have a great week. I'm gonna actually, I've got Dr. David Allen has reached out to maybe come and be a guest on our show.
Nice.
So maybe we'll have him on next week.
That's awesome, babe.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
have a guest because, like I said, I'm just going to be on hiatus with Cannabis and Coffee for the summer. But if somebody wants
Yeah.
to be a guest on the show, we'll just bring them on to our show.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. You guys all take care. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace out. Peace
Have a
and
good
love,
night.
babes.
Yeah. Good night.
About those nights in Montreal, all I think about is we.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
The People's Alliance of Cannabis in Canada is an organization working to improve cannabis legalization in Canada. They have a mission and values that includes all Canadians, no matter where they come from. Their values are including everyone, as no one should be excluded from participating, equality, diversity, advocacy, along with cannabis education and research, plus industry, safety, and professional standards. If this is an organization that has the same values as you, check them out at peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Once again, peoplesallianceofcannabisincanada.ca. Check them out.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
The People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network provides its listeners with news, information, and a place to be heard. This is done with a twice-weekly broadcast of the Reefer Reporters and by providing cannabis advocates a place to be heard through Cannabis and Coffee to Marijuana and the award-winning Pace Radio Show. Catch it all here at paceradio.net.
A doctor's job is to relieve your pains, and when it comes to growing cannabis, the biggest pain is trimming. Let Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions take the pain away. Whether you're a home grower or a commercial operation, we have the cure. From 4 plants to 400 plants, garden size doesn't matter. Dr. Buck Cannabis Trimming Solutions comes to you with years of experience and professional discreet service. It's simple. We trim your weed, and we do a damn good job. Visit drbuckcts.com to book your trimming.
What is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network? It's a network of people advocating cannabis education.
CTCP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Who has huge buds? You do. If you shop at BMA Hydroponics, attend one of BMA's educational seminars and learn the secrets of growing, harvesting, processing, and consuming quality cannabis and cannabis products. Learn how to make better extracts, edibles, and medicinal creams at prices you can afford. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive, Belleville, or call 613-967-9888.
The only way to go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.